So we've heard this week that the Christmas episode of Doctor Who has been cancelled. Russell T Davies has stepped down, or has been stepped down from running the show, and the future of Doctor Who is uncertain. So I thought I'd pop on here for a quick chat with you to see what you think is next for this iconic show. Hello fellow Whovians, welcome to the Retro Shed. My name's Tim and I make videos about mostly retro entertainment such as old movies, old TV shows, old music, anything old or nostalgic. So if that is your kind of thing, make sure that you subscribe to this channel, maybe give this video a like and share it with people that you think might enjoy this kind of content. If you've been following my channel for some time, you'll know that my favourite TV show of all time is Doctor Who. I'm even sat down on the floor of the Retro Shed as we speak, just so that I can have this great background behind me. This is a 1993, I believe, 30th anniversary of the show bookcase, which I have made into a DVD case and Blu-rays, etc. So yeah, I had to have it as my background, didn't I? But yeah, have you heard the news this week? What do you think about the cancellation of the Christmas episode? A lot of fans are up in arms and are worried about the future of the show. I'm probably one of the oldest Doctor Who fans on YouTube, so I can actually remember the first cancellation of the show back in 1989. I was about 8 or 9 years old and I'd first been drawn into the show by Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Eldred as the 7th Doctor and Ace. And then it was cruelly taken off our screens just 2 or 3 seasons into his run. And what we didn't know at the time was that it wouldn't return to television for the next 16 years, the wilderness years as we called them, or they have been called since. I didn't have access to the TV movie starring Paul McGann. In fact, I didn't know about the TV movie at all until many years later. So it wasn't until 2005 when it returned to our screen, and I can't tell you just how excited I was to go from that. If you imagine that in 1989 I was 9 years old, in 2005 I was 25 years old, so massive difference in age, and yeah, but it shows just how long it took and how long it was off the screen. And that's what worries me about this this news. They have come out in force to say that it hasn't been cancelled as such, just that the Christmas episode has been cancelled. And this kind of leads on from some news I heard not long ago that they were really struggling to find the right actor for the show. So I wanted to kind of chat about what this means for the show, what we think has gone wrong, if anything has gone wrong. I mean, what are your opinions? Did you enjoy the last few years of Doctor Who? I've struggled with it, to be honest, for several reasons, but I did really enjoy Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, and I felt he really breathed a breath of fresh air into the show after Jodie's era. I struggled with Jodie's era, not because of Chibnall necessarily, and not because of Jodie either. I think she's a fantastic actress. But the problem I had with the characterisation of the, what we on, 13th Doctor, was it? Or 14th? I lose count, especially after the Timeless Children. She was just a bit too human for me. I struggle a little bit with Peter Davison's depiction of the Doctor for the same reason, although he has grown on me over the years. I quite like my Doctor to feel alien, to feel other, to feel like he's descended onto this world and is trying to fit in with humans. And I think the best Doctors are the ones who have that natural eccentricity about them. You think of like your Tom Bakers, for example, and your Sylvester McCoys. I know not everyone liked him. I have a soft spot for him. Patrick Troughton, you know, these are all people that you can imagine, and Hartnell as well, as kind of like a wise wizard or a space traveller or someone just a bit different. And I think for sort of weird kids like me, that is something that the Doctor represents. He or she always represents the underdog, the outsider, the person who doesn't really kind of fit in, but always has like at their core a moral centre, and always uses their brains over their fists to solve disputes. And I think that's something that maybe was missing a little bit from the last few years. Certainly with some of Nshuti's performances, there was one in particular where he kind of laughed and danced while this guy's entity was being hoovered up and stuff. And even though that guy was a complete awful villain, it just felt too cruel to me for a Doctor to be like that. But anyway, that aside, I really liked Ncuti. I thought he was one of those people. Another thing that you need as the Doctor is to be one of those people that you come onto the screen and you just electrify the whole set. You're someone who has that, I guess they call it the X Factor, not the program, the old meaning for that term. But yeah, someone who walks onto set and the whole set is made more magical as a result. And Ncuti has that. He definitely has that. So yeah, I'm sad to see him go, to be fair. I think he did a great job, but I also think there were quite a few problems with his era. And I think the biggest one was it was a bit too lush. I know it sounds a bit daft. I've heard a few Whovians say this, that they would prefer if less money was spent on the show. There was a certain charm, I think, especially in the classic era, but also in the Russell T Davies in his first era, of it being more simple, more straightforward, more kind of like a family mystery. That, you know, I mean, Doctor Who gets a lot of gripes for it being wobbly studios and things like that, and I never really subscribe to that, because I'm always super impressed with Doctor Who in that they were really pushing the boundaries and the budget with what they could achieve. They would have hardly any budget, but they would use really intelligent and creative ways to make it work and to make you suspend your disbelief into believing in sort of alien worlds or historical environments and things like that. And I think that's something that's been missing. It's almost had too much money thrown at it and too many effects. Almost like the Disney effect. It was quite exciting when Disney kind of gave a bit of money to the BBC to invest in Doctor Who, but at the same time, it just, I don't know, it was too filmic for me, and it lost that connection with the mystery and the ingenuity that Doctor Who often has, if that makes any sense. I think another thing that happened with, if you look at the difference between Russell T Davies's first era, when he first came back, when the show first came back, and he did such an incredible job with Christopher Eccleston and with David Tennant. When you look at that era, and then you look at Ncuti Gatwa's era, another thing that strikes me is it's all kind of style over content, and there's not enough time to explore characters. When you look at the relationship between the Doctor and Rose, or the Doctor and Martha, for example, and then you look at the lack of connection and the lack of character development that happens in Ncuti's era. I mean, like Millie Gibson, I can't even I should have done my research. I can't even remember the names of his companions. That's how little his companions were worked on. I remember that Millie Gibson, I remember her real name, she had a family who were pretty cool. That's about all I can remember about her. I can't even remember the name of the last actress. I'm really sorry. She was lovely, don't get me wrong. She was a great actress, but she didn't have enough character development. They didn't have time. It was all about the spectacle. It was all about the bigger and bigger and bigger stories. Something that happened a lot in Moffat's time, actually, where it went a little bit convoluted at times, even though I love Moffat's era. But they really wanted to show that they had a lot of money to spend. And the last few episodes in particular had such potential, but was such a mess. I mean, if you imagine that, like, you had the Rani, coming back. This is a big deal for classic Doctor Who fans to have the Rani coming back after, what is it, like 25, no, 30 years? No, more than 30 years, 35 years, something like that, for the Rani to come back, and then for it to be just so squandered. And again, fantastic actresses playing the Rani, but how much can you remember about it apart from it being a complete mess? You also had Omega coming back. Should have been massive. It just left me feeling cold, and that's not something that I expect from Doctor Who. Yes, it has its ups and downs. There are some terrible episodes, there are some great episodes, and that's one of the things, like, you can have the best episode of TV sci-fi ever one week and have one of the worst the next week, and that's part of the charm of Doctor Who. You're never quite sure what you're going to get, and also that fans will completely disagree on what is the best and what is the worst, and again, there's a bit of charm to that as well. But it was just so messy, that last season. Some of the worst. I think that Eurovision one, I think I said at the time, was possibly the worst episode possibly of the entire show. I'd maybe put Delta and the Bannermen up there. I know Delta and the Bannerman has its fans, but yeah, that, and there's a sort of first series of Sylvester McCoy, even though I loved him. There were some stinkers in there, like Delta and the Bannermen wasn't great, and Paradise Towers wasn't great either. But yeah, that Eurovision one, I think that was possibly the worst that I've ever seen. It was so bad. Didn't have anything to do with characters. It was just making a joke of the show. And yeah, in some ways, when you look at it like that, it might be a good thing that it's having a break. I never thought I'd say that. After living through the wilderness years of 16 years without Doctor Who on our screen and thinking it would never come back, to the excitement of it coming back in 2005, to that some incredible New Who, as I call it, episodes from the Chris Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi. All of them had some incredible episodes. For it to go from that to sort of dying with a whimper, essentially, with Jodie's era and then Ncuti's era. So sad to see, but I'm hoping and praying that this break will give the show a new lease of life again. I really hope it's not another 16 years before we get some more and new Doctor Who. But what do you think would improve the show? What would you like to see when it does hopefully come back? It will. It's got to come back, hasn't it? And it can't be 16 years again. What would you like to see? Personally, I've been thinking about this question, and one of the things I thought was, I was kind of thinking of Sherlock. You know how it's kind of got that mystery. There's always like a mystery and a sort of very English humour. But also it's a program that people talk about, really get into and invest in. The characters are flawed but fascinating and intriguing. The plots are intriguing as well. The only thing I'd say about that is I don't want it to just be for older Who fans. One of the things I love about Doctor Who is that it's a family show. So I like the silly, more childish elements. I like the Slovene. I like the all that kind of thing as well. But I do think it's one of those shows that can really unite families and bring them together when done right. So I would love to see that attitude return to Doctor Who. Maybe not as lavish or as big stories, but stories about characters and about what it is to be an outsider on Earth and to take the moral path, especially in this era, in this time that we live in, when morality just seems to have gone out the window. You know, you've got we're getting further and further right wing. I don't want to be political, but a lot of the community, love, diversity, inclusion, all of these things that we try to strive for to make a better world, they seem to be under threat at the moment. And what better time would it be for the show to use a character like the Doctor to really examine those things, but to do it in a subtle way and a way that challenges us but also makes us think as well. Anyway, those are my feelings on the Doctor Who Christmas special cancellation and losing Russell T Davies from the show. I would love to see the show come back, of course. It's my favourite TV show, so of course I want to see it come back. But I'd like to see it come back with a very different approach to what we've seen over the last few years. And I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments below about how you feel they should do that, or whether you're happy with what's been going on recently and you're sad to see it change. I'd love to hear that too. I'm always open to different opinions about Doctor Who, and it always makes me re-evaluate my own opinions about the show as well. So that's it for now. If you enjoy classic television, retro films, retro music, or anything nostalgic and retro, then do make sure to subscribe to the Retro Shed and let me know in the comments below, are there any other themes about Doctor Who you'd like me to cover? Another thing I'd like to tell you actually just at the end is that I actually wrote a book called Doctor Who, A Companion. I don't want to be one of them people that goes through loads of sponsors and ads, because this is I don't make any money from this platform, but I thought whilst I'm talking about Doctor Who, you should know about this. So I wrote a book called Doctor Who, A Companion, which is the first 60 years of the show, including all the spin-offs and my thoughts on the show itself. So if you fancy looking at that, I will leave a link in the description, including the hardback and the Kindle version. So yeah, check that out if you like, but of course, no pressure. I'll see you again on the next one. Thanks for watching and take care.